hilarious. It's been a long time since I did one of these videos. A very long time. But this is special because I'm staying in a hotel. I've got a flight to catch from Dublin Airport tomorrow to Copenhagen. And I had to stay overnight in Dublin. So I got a hotel near the airport. This is the Travel Lodge on Shangan Road in Ballymun. And what's amazing about this is I used to live on the street. I grew up here. It used to be at the time, this was all a high-rise estate, inner city kind of project thing, the Americans would call it. Tower blocks, built in the 1960s, the early 60s. And I grew up here. I lived here until the early 80s. And it used to be such a run-down area, very poor, very heavily IRA controlled. But it was a good place to grow up to as well. I mean, it was tough. I used to get beat up every single day down here below me. And I'll just let you have a look at the window. I don't know if you can see anything, but this was called Folklorist. This is where these apartments were not there. What's what remains from when I was growing up. I don't know if you can see it up there, but it's the old 1960s power station. And I figured out that this geographically is right where my friend Kivo used to live. Kivo died of a heroin overdose when he was about 19, and his mother found him dead in the bedroom. And where my hotel room is not too far from where they live. I've worked it out. So I wonder if he's here tonight. So it's kind of, I'd be cruel if Kivo came to me in his dreams. He wouldn't believe me. He'd say, "What are you doing now, you Sheridan, you fucking..." But it's just amazing. I mean, the area has changed so much. It's just completely not the same. But there is still one place here. It was an old IRA pub across the road. At the point, it's not now, but it was a big place for IRA guys to meet. The Towers, and the 1916 room is in there, and the pub is still there. So I think later on we're going to go for a pint, and I'll give you a look inside the pub. But yeah, inside the old shopping centre here. I probably haven't been here in about 25 years. I used to hang out here as a kid. This was like the only shops in the area. And it was good because it was covered over, so it's like a real throwback to a 1960s type sort of mall. And there was an avenue that used to lead up that way. Tesco's is there now. That used to be a Quinsworth. That was an Irish chain. Now it's an English one. I don't see any of those shops. I remember there used to be a shop here where this place Image 2, the tattoo place, where they used to have hundreds of model airplanes hanging off the ceiling, and there was a bicycle shop too. It's amazing. And I've had dreams about this place actually in recent years. There used to be steps that went upstairs, and upstairs is where like dentists, barbers, and like services were. There used to be a newsagent along here. I used to buy my comics and everything. It's all gone. It's all changed. And that was the penthouse down at the very end where the guy in the security jacket is standing. It's still there, the news agent. That was the penthouse down there. The penthouse was a notorious pub. It was one of the busiest pubs in Ireland, but it was run by gangsters. It was run by the mafia, the local mafia. And it was a much more dangerous pub than the Towers for two reasons. The Towers was beside the Garda station, the police, and it was also because it was full of IRA. Just about everybody was armed, so you never had to worry about being beaten up in a pub fight. The Penthouse was the first place I was ever sold drink illegally. I was like 17, sorry. I was just underage, even though I was very young looking. I managed to get served in there. But yeah, I think the Penthouse had the record for the most pints of Guinness ever sold in a day. Something like that. But we'll go inside into the Towers now. And Thing is, it's completely changed here now. It's like just like nice neighbourhood pub. Staff are lovely, just very friendly. Everyone's like saying everyone knows each other by first name. It's just it's actually ironic that it's still a real old-fashioned Irish pub. Everyone knows everyone who comes in here. Everyone's very friendly to strangers. People are interested in you, and it's just nice to see that still exists. It's interesting too. Even though this, it's right. We're in the middle of the north side of Dublin, which is in a very, very multi-ethnic part of Ireland. Very much so. I mean, every race on earth is around here, and there's also a university just up the road, Dublin City University, the North City campus, and that has students from everywhere. And, all around the town. You don't see as many minorities as you do in the rest of the North City of Dublin. It's almost like it's an enclave of old Ireland. It really is an urban village. It hasn't changed in terms of the demographic. It's still, very traditional, old-fashioned Dubliners. These people could have been stepped out of a James Joyce novel. It hasn't changed, and it's good to see that. Like, I actually like multiculturalism, and I'm not the kind of I think Dublin is a much better city because of all the immigration. It's brought, for lots of reasons, but not that it was a terrible place before, but it's nice to see that there's still enclaves like this, and where the old city, when you go up to the bar, the woman calls you honey and sweetheart, and it's it's very friendly, and everyone's laughing and joking. So it's almost like going back in time. If anyone is staying in Dublin Airport, I suggest staying in the Travel Lodge on Shangan Road, or one of the hotels here. Definitely come in here for a pint. It's funny, you'd be in the middle of like urban Ireland, very, very urban around here, but yet at the same time it's very traditional. So you'd actually experience both, and come in and say hello to people that are very nice. I was looking at some of the lads hanging out on the street corners around here, and it's funny how things don't really change. The same kind of fashions change, but the same kind of body language, same kind of postures, and even the same as when I was a kid. They don't really change. There's a sort of it's hard word to explain. It's like it's not so much an attitude. It's almost like this is what they are. This is what they are. This is what they're meant to be, and how they appear to others. It's a very interesting dynamic, the idea of being a young urban person, because they're very similar all over the world. There's a lack of kinetic energy or something about them that they don't have. It's hard to explain, but there's an element of I guess a kind of a sense of loss, that there's something lost in them. And when I was a kid here growing up and a teenager, I was always considered very different than the other kids. I used to play in a band, I used to paint and draw, I used to write poetry, but I was also like, a typical one of them as well, in that I wasn't like a nerd or something like that. Like I did a lot of the same things they did, a lot of the same, so I used to drink behind school halls and things like that. And it was, like I said, in many ways it was a great life. We had a lot more freedom back then. There was nothing like SSRIs. There was nothing like, you know, there wasn't cameras in every street corner. There was a lot more freedom, and you were given a kind of even though there was it was a lot poorer back then. We didn't have any. These kids today have it around here, but a lot easier in many ways, and it was a lot poorer. But we had very good creative skills, not only just like to play music and stuff like that, but there were so many people involved in drama, there were so many people involved in acting. These are people who had nothing, but yet they had a lot of kind of self-dignity or something. And another thing I noticed is how short the kids are still around here. There was a lot of shortness or something. People were very, very short. And they would always hang out in gangs of 2 or 3. And I still see that around here. There's still gangs of 2 or 3. And they still wear kind of baggy clothes. I can remember, well, in the 80s I remember that there was this kind of like when the new romantic thing was coming out. That's when I was that age. And I can remember I had this, I loved the band Japan. And I used to think that Mick Karn, God rest his soul, was the coolest looking dude out there. And so did lots of people. I thought he was cooler looking than Bowie. As well as a brilliant musician, an incredible bass player. Died last year after a long battle of cancer. And I can remember there were so many great musical memories like that. I remember a girl on the bus one day, she said to me, you like all that weird stuff, don't you? And I said, yeah, what do you mean weird stuff? And she gave me an LP, and I had such a crush on this girl. Well, her name was Felicity, I can't remember, I know her first name was Felicity, but she was like, she was like the prettiest girl in the school. She was gorgeous, a gorgeous, like, blonde. And she gave me a copy of the David Bowie album, Low. And it was like I was completely smitten and in love. It's like a dream had come true or something. It was funny. But, you know, it's so strange being back here. It's nice strange, but it's also, it just reminds me of the incredible journey I've made in my life, what I've come from. You know, I came from this place, and, you know, what I did with my life, what I achieved, and the adventures I had, and it's just, I do feel... Okay, let me explain what this is. I grew up on this stuff, and it's hard to get outside Dublin, you know, and the rest of Ireland. This is ray, you know, like stingray. This is the fish that killed your man, the crocodile hunter. Remember that guy? And now it's payback time, motherfucker. That's absolutely delicious. It's a stringy meat. You see that? It's a stringy flesh, and it's the tastiest fish you could imagine. It's almost got like crab and lobster overtones, as well as it's got this kind of interesting sting. I'm not kidding, it really does. Kind of excites the end of your tongue. But it's absolutely gorgeous, and it's cooked in this like egg. People ask me, what do these shapes that I often draw on many, or put on many my paintings signify? To me, they signify human dynamic. These shapes to me sound like ideas and thoughts. It was a sort of a symbolic representation of energies, human energy, animal energy, whatever, ideas, thoughts, coming from individuals or natural objects. And it was just a way of me visually encapsulating this idea of the sense of energy, the dynamic. So I can't... I suppose in this case it'd be like a speech bubble. That's probably what, like in a cartoon book, on a comic book, it would be like a speech bubble. It was it's just an idea, a symbol, the idea of conveying a sensation, both thoughts, the idea of conveying a sensation as energy. In this case, the three lads who were in search of a kebab, having that discussion. and this would represent that dialogue. It would represent the cold of the night. It's their energy. It's their living energy leaving them, exploding from them in such a way. So I think I came up with this about 2008, 2009. I was just doodling, as I do constantly, and I think I was up late one night. I couldn't sleep or something like that, and it was I wanted the idea of conveying an emotion I was having, but without writing it down, doing it in a pictorial form. And these shapes, these sort of fanned out shapes gave me, that worked for me. So that's what some of you have asked me what those shapes mean. That's what they mean.